Good evening, everyone. Thank you. I'd like to call to order this the September 26th public forum of the Foxboro Public Schools School Committee, and welcome to everyone in attendance. The goal of this evening is to allow those residents, students, and parents who have signed up the opportunity to speak to the school committee relative to the topic of the Foxboro Public Schools mascot. The committee is here to listen to your thoughts. There will not be dialogue with the committee, rather, time for you to offer your views. As to protocol, only to those individuals signed up on Thursday, 21st, will be permitted to speak. You've all probably come in already and received a number, so that means you've signed up, you've received your number, which is the order. If you requested to speak, you should have received that number when you signed in. In order to have time for all speakers to offer their comments, it would be best if the next three speakers or three numbers would be seated in the front row and prepared to speak when it is time. We'll just move through it faster. Speakers were assigned the numbers according to the order they registered. The committee established that speakers will be called upon with their number and must speak at that time. Speakers cannot defer their slot, and if a speaker is not in attendance when their number is called, they will forfeit the opportunity to speak. All speakers will be afforded 3 minutes only. A timer is placed on the table, which will count down your 3 minutes so you can manage the length of your statement. Town moderator Frank Spillane will moderate the meeting. Given the number of people signed up, you can see already, the 3 minutes needs to be strictly enforced for the benefit of your time. Please adhere to that 3 minutes out of respect for all speakers. When it is time, please proceed quickly to the microphone. I am sure that everyone will appreciate the courtesy of others by not speaking over anyone and allowing for a quiet audience while someone is presenting their views. I close my opening with a request that all of us respect each other's views and right to express that opinion. History, tradition, welcoming citizens, and beauty are strong aspects of our community. We are a community of pride, opportunity, diversity, and simply a great place to live, grow up, and feel safe. Let us be that tonight and every day. Thank you to everyone for coming out to present your thoughts. Welcome.
Good evening. Can anyone hear this? I was having trouble over there. Okay, so the school committee asked me to run this forum. I don't expect to be doing much tonight because there are 88 people that have signed up to speak this evening. I don't know if all 88 are going to show up, but if they all do and they all use their 3 minutes, we're going to be here for 4.5+ hours. So I hope that we can get this running through very quickly. The mic is down here. For the first few speakers, I'm going to wait until we make sure that the speaker is working and people can hear it before I ask for the timer to start. I hope the speaker will pay attention to that and will conclude at the end of 3 minutes. When the speaker comes down, if they can speak into the mic and state their full name and address here in Foxboro, or if they don't live here in Foxboro, where they do live. Again, there are 3 minutes per speaker. When you're 2 or 3 speakers away from speaking, if you can come down and sit somewhere in the front row so you have a shorter distance so we can keep things going. Right now, the timer will not have a buzzer going off because I don't want that as a disturbance. But if people continually to go over the 3 minutes, we will implement it. Again, there will be no questions that are responded to tonight by the school committee. They're just here to listen tonight. So again, we have 88 speakers to go through, and hopefully we can get through this as fast and as civilly as possible. So the person with number 1, please come forward. Again, would you please state your name and address?
Ladies and gentlemen.
Could you speak into the other mic?
This one?
Yes.
Okay, well, it's a little taller than me.
And can everyone hear?
Can everyone hear me? I can project, don't worry.
Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen of the
start it?
school committee, my name is Christine Scafidi, and I'm a single mom who moved here with her 2 boys to Foxboro almost 3 years ago. I chose my home because it was near my family, it felt safe, and I had a wonderful school system and I could keep my dog. I am a licensed school and mental health counselor who has spent my whole career working with kids around college and career readiness. I currently work for the Department of Higher Education, and the population I support are those students who are first generation, low income, and historically discriminated against. Simply put, I am an ally and an anti-racist who helps to bring equity to education one day at a time. An ally is a person, group, or entity that supports and advocates for the rights, interests, or the well-being of another individual or group, typically in the context of social, political, or moral issues. Allies work collaboratively to promote equality, justice, and positive change for the groups they are supporting, often by standing up against discrimination, oppression, or systemic injustices. An anti-racist is someone who actively opposes and works against racism in all its forms. Being anti-racist involves more than just not being racist oneself. It means taking proactive steps to challenge and dismantle racial prejudices, discrimination, and systemic racism. Anti-racists engage in activities and behaviors aimed at promoting racial equity, supporting marginalized communities, and advocating for policies and practices that combat racism and promote inclusivity and equality for all races. When someone decided to change the mascot from a fox to a Native American in the 1970s, it seemed like the right thing to do. But fast forward 40 plus years, and now we live in a time where we know and acknowledge the atrocities that happened when colonists came and took the land in Massachusetts for themselves. Yet people still want to keep this face as some sort of a trophy. Just like when a child learns not to touch a hot stove when they burn themselves for the first time, now that we know what we know about our history and its problematic truths, isn't it time that we removed the Native American face and replaced it with a more fitting and appropriate symbol? As a single mom, I'm a warrior. My best friend who survived breast cancer is a warrior. I have a friend whose father is failing quickly due to ALS. She, her father, and her family are warriors. My nephew, who has enlisted in the Army, will be a warrior for our country. My point, we all know a warrior. I guarantee you none of our warriors look like the man who was on the football helmets, lacrosse gear, or paid to be on the marquee at the Orpheum Theater. We all know deep down this figure does not represent who we are, especially since Foxboro is a town that is 97.09% white. Why should we be able to overcome and say that our privilege matters more than theirs? Knowing what we know and thinking about the children in this community, especially my boys who are 7 and 8, I think it's time to change the warrior symbol to something else. Thank you for your time.
Number 2. Name and address, please.
My name's Mara Buglione, and I live at 54 Adams Street. I've lived in Foxboro for over 14 years. When I started coaching girls lacrosse 6 years ago, I didn't think too much about the Warriors logo on my first grader's uniform. In the following years, the running club that I belonged to, known as the Wampanoag Roadrunners, started discussing whether or not the club should change its name. At that time, I was a bit confused because I was certain the tribe would be honored by our use of their name. After all, our club does a lot of good in the community through volunteerism in various ways. You can imagine my surprise when I learned that after being told about all of our good work, the Mashpee Wampanoag tribe was approached, asked if supportive of us using their name, and they said no. While they said they cannot force us to change our name, they kindly asked us to do so. They briefly explained that as a people, they have already lost so much, and that their traditions, names, and rituals are sacred, and they wish to keep them this way. I started to read more on the topic about what really happened to the Indigenous people in the US. Spoiler alert, it's far from being all happy times with a side of stuffing and cranberry sauce. I also read about how strenuously Indigenous people had to fight for professional sports teams, such as the Washington football team, to finally do the right thing and change their name. As a lacrosse coach here in Foxboro, I have been approached by both local families as well as opposing teams with questions about our logo. Should we have a logo that raises these types of questions? The following year, when this topic came up, I was thrilled at the thought of making forward progress. I want my children and all the Foxboro youth to see our town stand up and do the right thing. I have read countless research studies which indicate the use of Indigenous mascots are harmful to Native and non-Native youth and open the door for racial slurs and other unacceptable behavior. I have reached out and connected with many tribes, organizations, and experts in this field because at the end of the day, my opinion or your opinion holds very little weight on this topic as compared to the tribal nations. The message from tribal members in Massachusetts has been resoundingly clear. They are asking for change. The National Congress of American Indians, the largest Native-led nonprofit in the country, provided this quote for me to share. Absent a formal agreement with a sovereign tribal nation, the National Congress of American Indians supports the retirement of all Native-themed mascots and logos in public K-12 schools. This includes the Warriors mascot here in Foxboro. So today, I am here to respectfully ask the Foxboro School Committee to honor its very own mission and core values by changing our current logo. It's not always easy or always popular to do the right thing, but it's time to move away from this image of the past. Thank you.
Thank you. 3.
Denise Hughes, 6 Lincoln Hill Way. Research from yearbooks and other source materials placed the adoption of our current mascot around the late 60s, early 70s. At that time, based on yearbook pictures, there was an actual mascot in the schools dressed up as an Indigenous person, and people in the stands dressed in Indigenous headdresses. At around the same time, the state of Massachusetts in November 1970 was hosting the 350th anniversary of the Mayflower landing. In the spirit of perpetuating the idea of peaceful and harmonious relations between the Pilgrims and the Indigenous people, the state invited a man named James Frank, leader of the Wampanoag, to speak. They asked to review his speech ahead of time, but when they read it, they thought it would make the attendees feel too uncomfortable, and they gave him a rewritten speech to read. He refused, and instead gave his original speech that day on Coles Hill in Plymouth. In his silent speech, he said in part, "History wants us to believe that the Indian was a savage, illiterate, uncivilized animal. A history that was written by an organized, disciplined people to expose us as an unorganized and disciplined entity." From this protest was born the National Day of Mourning that has been recognized on the same day we celebrate Thanksgiving for the last 50 years. We live 2 stories in America, one that is often untold. I've been to several of our Thanksgiving Day football games where many are proudly wearing an image of an Indigenous person, but I have yet to hear any acknowledgement of the National Day of Mourning. At Coles Hill, there is a plaque that reads, "Thanksgiving is a reminder of the genocide of millions of Native people, the theft of Native lands, and the relentless assault on Native culture." Many have asked, why change the mascot now? When did it all of a sudden become problematic? Things don't all of a sudden become problematic. They always were. It's just that we as a society have started to listen and understand the heavy weight of 400 years of subjugation can have on a race of people. We have started to revisit seemingly harmless decisions we've made in the past, but this is not the first time that this issue has been considered. As our recently departed town historian Jack Othlet wrote in 1991 in the Foxboro Reporter, "Our warrior mascot is, and I quote, an unfair characterization of Indians, perhaps in the factor of ethnic origin, a distorted portrayal of the Indian's role in early America, and an emphasis on one aspect of his character to the exclusion of all others." So let us remember that we are not debating the appropriateness of a mascot of a, we are debating the appropriateness of a mascot of a public school, not a for-profit NFL team. And as such, we should be looking at considerations beyond tradition and sentimental attachments and focusing on merit-based arguments and research. So to quote Sagamore Ferris Gray, if the true history were being taught in schools today, we wouldn't be having a discussion about a mascot because pretty much everyone would be able to see how inappropriate it is to have survivors
Okay.
of a Holocaust here as your mascot.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Number 4? Is number 4 here? Number 5? Number 5? No? Okay. Is number 5 here? We can move on to number 6. Seven? Number 8. Yep.
Colin Ernst, 12 Weston Ave in Foxboro. The decisions made by any school committee regarding curriculum, health, or safety are all based heavily on the use of scientific data. I appreciate you hosting this forum this evening, and I support your continued use of data, not public opinion, to inform decisions that impact our students. The scientific data on the mascot issue is quite clear, and I know you've all received copies of the American Psychological Association's research that illustrates the detrimental mental health impacts on Native American students and some non-Native students in this kind of scenario. Let me say that again for everybody here. Detrimental mental health impacts. Failing to address these impacts creates a system of disadvantage in our schools. It's a violation of the Equal Educational Opportunities Act as well. Choosing to keep Foxboro's mascot and ignore these inequities is no different than if the school committee decided they wanted to provide laptop computers only to boys, or offer honors classes only to white students. This Foxboro mascot creates an inequity in our schools. History has taught us that addressing inequities requires us to step back and question things that have always been this way. Listen, tonight you're going to hear perspectives from a lot of people, and I want to acknowledge the perspective of those who've lived in this town for a long time and for whom this will represent a significant change. Our town's history is very important, but our ties to tradition and nostalgia should never come at the expense of our future. So I ask you and remind you, the decisions you make on this issue are about our present and our future. It's about those students who feel marginalized by this logo, who walk into our sporting events and our pep rallies, only to be reminded that our school community views them as a caricature or a trophy and not a person. It's for those students, those brave students who've stepped forward to speak out, often against angry opposition, to call out that this logo is a source of oppression for them. That's who this decision is for. You know, when this topic first came up back in March for the school committee, the first item on the agenda was a group of students from the Taylor School. Maybe you remember. They talked about their participation in the Great Kindness Challenge. There's smiles all around the room. They told us how empathy is understanding how others may feel. They talked about a buddy bench they created so no one would feel excluded. And they told us how kindness is doing the right thing even when no one is watching. If you recall that day, this committee commended those students for reminding us what kindness is. Perhaps we all need that reminder one more time. Thank you.
Number 9.
Mark McGuire, 224 Main Street. I'm a lifetime Foxborough resident and a lifetime Foxborough warrior. I can't tell you how proud I am to be a warrior, to be a parent and grandparent of warriors, and to coach the Foxborough High School Warrior softball team. I wouldn't want to live or coach in another town. The loyalty I have for this community and the great people of Foxborough runs deep. Growing up in Foxborough, you worked hard at your sport or sports so you could compete as a warrior, representing our town with the best logo in sports. On the front of our jersey was an honor. Names weren't put on the backs of our uniforms because one of us wasn't going to get it done. We needed each other. Together as a team and a town, with that great logo on the front of our uniforms, brings back many great memories. As an athlete in town, you took that pride to every field and court you played on. I vividly remember the teamwork, strength, toughness, resolve, hard work, community, etc. Everything that is good. As Pat Patriot from 1985 to 1998, I feel like I offer a unique perspective on this logo issue. This I know. If there are two things that longtime Foxborough residents are proud of, it's growing up in this tough blue-collar community and being recognized as a Foxborough warrior, and secondly, being home to the New England Patriots. Warrior and patriot to the people in this town means something. For longtime townies, myself included, the Warrior logo far outweighs Pat Patriot. Warriors with our perfect logo is special and is ours. It has connected generations, brought a strong sense of community, made us part of something that is bigger than ourselves. To take away our logo, you'd be taking away part of who we are and where we've been as a community. The American Indian has been the face of strength, resilience, and everything that is respected. I would hope that the Change the Logo supporters would acknowledge it for what it represents to the people of this town. It is a tribute with absolutely not one speck of disrespect. A positive is that this process has put a light on the history of the American Indian. Other logos have been discontinued throughout our country. Let Foxboro be a leader by standing strong as a community with our common belief. There have been highs and lows in this town over the course of history. A low would definitely be getting rid of the logo. This can not simply be replaced. Keep the Foxboro Warriors and our great logo. Thank you.
Number 10.
Good evening. My name is Deborah Stone, and I live at 96 Central Street in the home we've owned since 1976. Thank you for the opportunity to share why it is time to retire the warrior mascot. I will be sharing a statement prepared for this forum by the United American Indians of New England so that you can directly hear the words of the people who are fighting for their dignity. On September 26, 2023, Foxboro will hold a public forum in which the future of their high school mascot and logo, the warrior, will be discussed. United American Indians of New England fully supports the effort to retire the Foxboro sports team name and mascot and to replace it with an alternative that is not offensive and dehumanizing to Indigenous communities in Massachusetts. According to co-leader Keisha James of the United American Indians, quote, mascot is just another word for pet. It solidifies this idea that we are not people, that we are costumes, we are dehumanized, and that we are caricatures forever stuck in the past. Getting rid of mascots and acknowledging anti-Indigenous racism are the first steps that need to be taken in Foxboro and all towns that continue to use Native American mascots, end quote. UAINE co-leader Mattawan Munro also explains that they want to make it clear that the issue of Native American mascots is an issue of civil rights, human dignity, and fair representation rather than of public preference, especially in a town such as Foxboro with a mostly white population. While some members of the mascot supporting public may feel that their heritage or their traditions are under attack, those defending Native American mascots are in fact helping to perpetuate racial stereotypes of Native Americans and of American history more broadly. They are also ensuring that these racist stereotypes are imprinted on the minds of children. Numerous studies have demonstrated that Native American-themed mascots have a profound impact on both Indigenous and non-Indigenous people alike, especially children. In 2005, the American Psychological Association, the APA, recommended the retirement of Native American mascots in scholastic sports. In explaining the reason for making this policy recommendation, its former president, Ronald Levant, said, quote, the use of American Indian mascots as symbols in schools and university athletic programs in particular is troubling because schools are places of learning. These mascots are teaching stereotypical, misleading, and all too often insulting images of American Indians. Thank you.
Number 11. Number 11. Number 12. Number 12. Number 13.
My name is Doug Seuss. I live at 235 Central Street. My ties to Foxboro are many and go back 50 years. I am a 1976 graduate of Foxboro High School, and I've been a resident for 40 plus years. I've been involved with both Foxboro youth and adult sports. I have been on multiple town committees and currently sit on 3 of them. I work for the Foxboro Company. Yes, I still refer to it as the Foxboro Company for almost 43 years, and the Foxboro Public Schools for the past 4 years. I am now happily retired. Although I wasn't born in Foxboro, by all intents and purposes, I consider myself a townie. I have just a few questions to ask, if I may. Who initiated this campaign to change our logo and name? Was it a member of the school committee, our superintendent, the athletic director, the previous or current high school principal? I really would like to know. I think a lot of us would. I think this is important for all of us to know because whoever the driver of this initiative was, that person is responsible for dividing this town, all right, causing animosity amongst its citizens, neighbors, and students. That certainly was not the intention, but unfortunately, it's the result. I also ask, why is this such a priority with this school committee? Having spent the last 4 years working in the school system, I could supply you with a list of things that need far more attention than changing a logo. Since I only have 3 minutes, I won't go into detail at this time, but I'd be more than happy to share this information with you. Finally, I ask, why are we here tonight? I think the school committee has already made their decision, and this forum is just a facade to appease both sides in a public setting. Thank you for your time.
Number 14.
Brian Gild, 16 Windsor. So I want to talk a little bit about sports logos. I want to talk about the Kansas City Chiefs, who escaped the hottest national debates because their name does not evoke a slur like the Redskins. Organizations that work with Native Americans have considered these traditions. Fans stop dressing in Indian regalia at those games. Broadcasters don't focus on the fans that intend to disregard those rules. The team makes educational announcements about Native American history during the games. They hand out Native American literature during the games. Now, there's a lot of similarities between the Chiefs and the Foxboro logo debate that we're having tonight. The Foxboro logo doesn't evoke a slur. I'm not aware of any negative traditions that are tied to the logo. And we have no folks dressing up and mocking those Native traditions. So my first question is, why should we change anything if nothing's been done wrong? Data point number 2, Washington Commanders, used to be known as the Washington football team, and prior to that, Washington Redskins. They're now being sued by the Native American group saying the new name is fit for oppressors. The team owner, it says here, the team owner, money and power, rival European countries who conquered Native Americans. So my second question is, why are we considering a logo change? No matter what you change, someone will always be offended. Point number 3, if we end up moving forward with this logo change, where does it stop? Do we stop by changing the logo? What happens next? Street names, change bodies of water, displays at Memorial Hall, banners at the high school, gym floor logos, our scoreboard, rec signs, flags at Town Hall. There's probably 10 other items that will have to change. So my question for the school committee is, how are you going to fund this unfunded mandate? Last but not least, the folks on the other side that are speaking negatively today about the logo, those are the same folks that have been peddling merchandise at all of our fundraisers. I just think it's hypocritical, and I'm asking for no change of the logo today.
Number 15.
Krista Nicholson, 132 Oak Street. When people describe what being a warrior means, they often use 2 words, pride and respect. I'm so proud of 2 students in particular, Caden and Shreyas, and along with all the other students who have stood up to incredible pressure and still stay firm in your beliefs. I'm so proud of all the students that are here tonight on behalf of their teams and respectfully stating your beliefs. What matters, it doesn't matter what side of the issue that you fall on. What matters is that you're willing to stand up in the face of others telling you you're wrong, and you hold tight to it. What matters is that you sit down after you speak and you listen to the others. It isn't a logo that brings us together. It's how we talk to our neighbors. It's how we show up when someone needs help. It's how we celebrate the people who've made this town great. It's about supporting our teachers and our school staff who show up every day to give our kids guidance and a great education. Logos are objects that can be changed. The way we talk to each other right now, this is the stuff that changes the fabric of our community. We can disagree with how people have chosen to live their lives, and we can still choose to feed them. We can disagree with someone's politics and still choose to shake their hands at the end of the debate. It doesn't matter really what's stuck on the side of our helmets or what's painted on the gym floor. What matters is that we still cheer as loud as we can when those banners are raised. We still show up when the buses circle the common, and we make as much noise for our incredible marching band as we do for touchdowns. We celebrate every kid that walks these halls because that is how we show pride and respect for each other. It doesn't matter if your family has lived here for generations. It doesn't matter if you came here 10 years ago or you moved here last week. What matters is that we're here now and we're here together as neighbors. We were given one hell of a gift when we purchased this land all those years ago that we all call home now. It's our duty and our responsibility to honor all of the people that came before us and who shape it for all of those coming after us. I have every confidence that our neighbors, the volunteers that we voted in, are taking in every word that is being said here tonight, and they're going to make the best possible decision for our town. Thank you.
Number 16.
Andrew Steele, 6 Fox Lane. The Massachusetts Bay Colony purchased the land for Foxboro in 1666 from Wampanoag chief Metacom, or King Philip, who had changed his name as a show of goodwill to the colonists. The colonists gave him 28 British pounds for the entire area, about $5,500 in today's currency. Today in Massachusetts, an undeveloped acre alone can go for $15,000 to $200,000. The town's price was a pittance offered in place of violence. The settlers of Plymouth, Saybrook, New Haven, and Massachusetts Bay colonies had formed a military alliance via the New England Confederation in 1643 with the intent of expanding their territories by force. In 1675, further settler encroachment forced the Wampanoag into armed conflict with the colonists. King Philip's War, considered the bloodiest conflict in colonial American history, ended a year later when Metacom was killed. Colonists sold his wife and son, who was 9, into slavery in Bermuda. Metacom's body was quartered with his head mounted on a pike at Plymouth's Gate, where it remained for 2 decades. By the 1700s, colonists had killed or forced out virtually every native person from the entirety of New England. I think we can safely conclude that our history has not been respectful of native people. Displaying a Plains Indian's head in a Massachusetts town is not a sign of respect. It is a boast that we are ignorant of that history. If we aim to be respectful of native peoples and identities, it begins with listening to tribes and native leaders. They overwhelmingly say, remove the imagery and instead teach our history. The school committee would know better than I do. Do we in our schools teach about native history? I'm sure we cover the Trail of Tears, maybe Red Cloud's War, certainly some mythologized tale of the first Thanksgiving. But do we educate about the deplorable conditions of modern reservations where the life expectancy is 52 years for women and 48 for men? Do we talk about the Dakota Access Pipeline and the water protectors of Standing Rock? Do we invite local Massachusetts and Wampanoag tribe leaders to share their stories with students? Do we teach native languages, which were repressed and lost through decades of residential schools and other forms of cultural disenfranchisement? Do our summer reading lists include options such as Bury My Heart at Wounded Knee or an Indigenous Peoples History of the United States? More significantly, are there any tribes or native leaders involved in designing or reviewing our school curricula? I'm proud of our community for taking the time to discuss this. I know from growing up here that warrior pride is about having courage in the face of adversity. Removing a racist mascot does not mean we have to abandon values of kindness and courage. Let's be brave enough to change for the better.
17.
Jared Craig, 156 R Beach Street. I want to thank you all for holding this forum tonight and allowing us citizens to the opportunity to weigh in on the logo. I grew up in Middleborough, about 30 minutes down 495 from here, and Middleborough High School shares the same exact logo as the Washington Redskins and the Foxboro High School, except that MHS is orange and black to our blue and gold. I represented the Middleborough Sachems at regional, state, and national student council conferences. I represented the Sachems internationally on an exchange trip to France. I represented the Sachems through the Boston Globe Drama Festival and the New England Theater Festival, and I proudly wore my black and orange Sachem gear to all of these events. I don't know if you could have found someone in my high school that was more proud of the Sachems than I was. In my senior year, we won that Boston Globe Drama Festival, which afforded us the opportunity to travel to Burlington, Vermont to perform. There were 2 schools invited from each New England state, totaling 12 schools. 11 schools had their state name, high school, and logo emblazoned on their door for the long weekend. Our door merely read, Massachusetts, Middleborough High School. And I asked our student guide why we didn't have our team logo on our door, and he said that the festival refused to use racist icons. This was an entirely new thought to me. I hadn't seen the Sachem warrior redskin head as racist before. Granted, this was 2003. And suddenly I was being called racist by association, and I did not like that feeling. I was also taught that we were honoring Native tribes by assuming the Sachem fighting spirit. So 20 years later, I find myself in a new town with the same logo, and it still leaves a bad taste in my mouth. I volunteer with the Foxboro Cable Access, and a few weeks ago I had the opportunity to interview Sagamore Ferris Gray of the Massachusetts tribe at Ponkapog. I found the conversation fascinating. I learned a lot, and I encourage anyone on the school committee to please watch it in your spare time. I know that's a lot. Sagamore shares his perspectives as a representative of an entire tribe, but what sticks with me from that experience was the feeling of looking into his eyes as he explained why the warrior logo was hurtful to him and by extension his tribe. I felt just like I did 20 years ago in Burlington, racist by association. He said that his people were not warriors, but only that they had to become warriors to defend themselves against the colonists. I think it's important that we listen to the Sagamore of the tribe our state was named after. I do not think that supporters of the Native symbol are inherently racist. I think that they intend to honor the Native spirit just as I did. But now that we are asking ourselves to question it, how do we respond? I think an important part of this conversation should also be about how we are construed by using that symbol. How do other schools look at us when we show up with a racist symbol? Do we want to fight for a racist logo to be plastered on our students' uniforms, hats, bumper stickers, and t-shirts? Do we want to proudly display racist iconography to other towns, states, or countries to show our affiliation? Is that what we want to have associated with ourselves, our students, and our children? Personally, I do not. We have the opportunity to do the right thing, so I ask you to please vote no so that we can say we are not racist by association.
Number 18.
My name is Caden Huderoin, and I am a junior at Foxboro High School. I live at 6 Lincoln Hill Way. I'm a proud member of the Jazz Ensemble, French National Honor Society, and I'm a leader in Be the Change. For the purposes of my statement, I will use the words mascot and logo interchangeably, as it's a distinction without a difference. A mascot, by definition, is a person/thing that's used to symbolize an organization. It does not require a person in a costume. Last spring, my classmate Shreyas and I started a petition to rebrand the Foxboro Public Schools logo. We currently have 871 signatures. We believe that this mascot objectifies and perpetuates one-dimensional stereotypes of indigenous people. The image is of a Blackfeet chief. The Blackfeet Nation is not located in Massachusetts or even New England. They are located in Montana. We do not have any local historical ties to this image. There are currently 574 federally recognized tribes in the United States. The indigenous people are a race made up of these hundreds of diverse tribes, each with their own cultures, traditions, and languages. Shreyas is Indian. I'm Chinese. We are both Asian, but we look nothing alike. Our ethnic languages differ. Our cultures have very few similarities. To have an image of a Blackfeet chief to represent indigenous people in Massachusetts is like taking an image of a Japanese emperor to represent the entire Asian race. We aren't interchangeable, and neither are the different indigenous tribes. Rebranding our mascot will not change or erase history, as our mascot does not convey or preserve any of the town's past. Mascots are not effective ways of educating our children about local historic content, especially if the mascot isn't even connected to Massachusetts. We wouldn't be changing history, we would be changing the future. Although we started the petition to support the mascot change, we wanted to do more than simply gather signatures. We wanted to do something that would benefit Indigenous people. So we researched various nonprofit organizations, and we chose the Association on American Indian Affairs. It is the oldest Native-led nonprofit in the country that has the goal of preserving Indigenous culture and educating Indigenous youth by providing scholarships. So in our petition, we ask that both supporters and non-supporters make a donation to the association. Regardless of the school committee's vote and the town's divide, some good should come out of everything. We didn't want to include the association in our petition without their consent, so we reached out to the nonprofit to inform them of our efforts. We connected with their chief executive and their office manager, who confirmed that they supported the petition, and they also helped us draft it. But going even further, they were clear that not only did they appreciate the fundraising efforts, but their entire staff and office were also in resounding agreement that the Foxboro logo must be changed. As they stated in our petition, this logo distorts who these sovereign Native nations have been and how they wish to be seen. Thank you.
Number 19.
Shreya Stradling, 4 Cobb Lane. Caden and I created a petition in favor of changing the logo, and as he mentioned, we worked with the Association on American Indian Affairs in its drafting. Founded in 1922, they are the oldest Native-led nonprofit
Can everyone
in
hear
the
him?
country.
Why don't you pick up?
All right.
Yeah. All right, why don't you say your name and address again?
All right.
Nice and loud.
Shreya Stradling, 4 Cobb Lane.
Start it all over. Go ahead.
Caden and I created a petition in favor of changing the logo, and as he mentioned, we worked with the Association on American Indian Affairs in its drafting. Founded in 1922, they are the oldest Native-led nonprofit in the whole country. Shannon O'Laughlin, member of the Choctaw tribe and chief executive and attorney for the nonprofit, sent over this statement addressing our very mascot. It states in part as follows. The Association on American Indian Affairs condemns the use of derogatory Native sports teams' names and mascots. Using these harmful stereotypes perpetuates a long history of uninformed depictions of Native peoples and violence, as well as undermines the educational learning environment. Studies about the effect of mascots on Native youth have specifically identified low self-esteem, low community worth, and increased negative feelings of stress and depression as negative psychological effects. Continuing these derogatory stereotypes within an educational setting, like a high school, not only promotes ignorance about the very history of our United States and Native nations' place in it, but also endorses negative perceptions of Natives. Some professional sports teams, such as the Washington Commanders and the Cleveland Guardians, have made moves in the right direction in recent years. Similarly, some sports associations, such as the National Collegiate Athletic Association, have banned Native-themed mascots. The association applauds these organizations and encourages all other schools, colleges, and institutions to follow suit. Despite these significant victories, Native-themed mascots remain ever present today in the United States. The data shows that there are still 1,901 schools with Native-themed mascots. Unless institutions are willing to work in collaboration with Native nations to develop appropriate insignias with those nations' free, prior, and informed consent, Native sports teams' names and mascots benefit only continued ignorance. Something so simple and easy as changing a mascot can result in tremendous healing, tolerance, and freedom for all. Therefore, the association calls on every institution with Native-themed sports teams' names and mascots to immediately end their use and work to understand the importance of Native nations in our country and our country's future. To reiterate some information on the organization, they are run by a board made up completely of Native Americans, leaders from all across the U.S., and their whole mission is preserving Native culture, protecting sovereignty, and educating youth about the complex history of Natives. When me and Caden got into this debate, we quickly realized something. Our opinions had no weight on this topic, so we are going to be messengers in a sense, making sure that the feelings and opinions of the people that mattered didn't fall on deaf ears. So we asked the school committee and everyone in this room to hear this message. If a century-year-old organization dedicated to preserving Native culture strongly disapproves of the mascot, what right do we have to claim preservation by keeping it?
Number 20. Is there number 20? 21?
Good evening, everyone, faculty, community, and Foxborough School Committee. Joseph Garrity, 77 N. Carlannon Court. I don't think there's a need to change the Foxborough Warrior or logo, but if there was, it could be the Foxborough Patriots, because we live in the hometown that our NFL professional sports team plays, our New England Patriots, right up at Gillette Stadium up the street. Thank you.
Number 22? Number 22? Number 23?
My name is Brandon Mazinkas O'Grady. I live at 140 Green Street, and I support no change to our Warrior name and logo. We were not aware that our Warrior way of life was in jeopardy during the last election. Perhaps if the candidates had made their positions clear, then the outcome would have been different. But here we find ourselves. Those of us old enough to vote will not make that mistake again. There are 2 school committee seats up for election next year, and then 2 the year after that, so any decision made by this board could be reversed as soon as next year. So why not wait to see what the state mandates and provides funding for? It is already September. I'm pretty sure that anyone who runs for any school committee seat in the future will be asked how they feel about our logo, and that voters will pay close attention from now on. Thank you.
'24?
Hello, I'm Erin Ernst, 12 Weston Ave. I've been a Foxborough resident for 19 years and the parent of 2 children who graduated from Foxborough Public Schools and attended from kindergarten to grade 12. I'm also an educator and formerly served as a member of the school council at Foxborough High School. At your September 19th school committee meeting, you, the members of the school committee, voted unanimously to approve the district's action plan for this school year, which, as you know, is the 3rd year of the 4-year strategic plan for success. I invite you, the members of the committee, to consider whether continuing to use a mascot that has been scientifically proven to be harmful to students aligns with the 4 pillars of the plan for success. For example, Pillar 3 focuses on the well-being, and the strategic objective states that the district will, quote, provide the necessary supports to ensure healthy minds and healthy bodies for all members of the school community. How does this current mascot support healthy minds for all community members? Pillar 4 of the district's plan for success focuses on diversity, equity, and inclusion. The strategic objective states that the district will, quote, foster and strengthen the respect and actions of staff, students, and families to celebrate diversity, ensure equity, and practice universal inclusion. I invite you to consider, how does the current mascot ensure equity and universal inclusion for those it marginalizes? Pillar 1 focuses on facilities and infrastructure, and the district's strategic objective is, quote, provide a safe, supportive, responsive, and innovative learning environment for all students and staff. How does the current mascot help to provide a safe and supportive learning environment? Continuing to use a mascot that has been scientifically proven to be harmful to children undermines the pillars of the district's plan for success. I ask the committee to vote to change the mascot so that the success is possible for all members of the Foxborough school community. Thank you.
Number 25? 25? 26?
My name is Mary Malloy. I'm a historian. I've lived on Maple Avenue for 31 years. American Indians have for decades objected to the use of racially stereotyped images of their people as mascots for sports teams. Native American logos have been retired from professional and college sports, and it's time for the school committee to recognize that the Warriors logo is not appropriate. The time to retire it gracefully is now. If you don't, pending legislation at the State House will mandate that it be done after a statewide discussion in which the Warrior logo is held up as an example of local racism in Foxboro. An act prohibiting the use of Native American mascots by public schools in the Commonwealth was referred to the Education Committee of the Massachusetts Legislature earlier this year. I'd like to quote 3 passages from the legislation. The first 2 refer to the harm such logos have on students, starting with harm to Native students, and I quote, "As stereotypes, these mascots do not represent Native Americans, nor do they honor them. They reinforce one-dimensional stereotypes that overshadow the contributions, perspectives, and struggles of contemporary Native American people. These racial stereotypes are painful reminders of historical trauma. Such logos also cause harm to non-Native, especially white students, by normalizing the use of racial stereotypes and dehumanizing the subjects. The legislation also includes a serious warning that Native American mascots are already likely a violation of state and federal anti-discrimination laws, including the Massachusetts anti-bullying law. To quote again, "Often school districts fear community backlash and so fail to fulfill their legal responsibility to protect all students from discrimination. Civil rights issues should never be decided in the court of public opinion. Municipalities must not be allowed to violate civil rights laws because of community resistance to change." End of quote. The American Indian head used as the logo of the Foxboro Warriors is a dated stereotype. I hope we have evolved as human beings and as citizens since it was first adopted. It has no ties to local history and is offensive and hurtful. The time has come to be sensitive to the impact of such images, retire it, and move on. And it should be done now before the legislation is passed and we're obliged to change it by the law of the Commonwealth. For those of you who are interested in more information on this legislation, I've actually provided 100 copies of a description of the legislation that I'll put on the table outside. Thank you very much.
Number 27? There's 27 here. Number 28. Are you 29?
Good evening. My name is Christine Igo Freeman, and I live at 10 Cocasset Street here in Foxborough. I live in the same house that I grew up in, and I grew up with a warrior and a rocketeer in my family. My dad was born in Foxborough in 1922 and graduated from Foxborough High School in the class of 1940. My mom grew up in North Attleboro and was a Red Rocketeer. My poor mother. From the time I came along in 1968, she would be forever outnumbered because I, too, am a Foxborough warrior and graduated from Foxborough High School in the class of 1986. Before I begin, I wish to thank everyone out there who calls Foxborough home or has ever called Foxborough home. Whether you live down the street, across the country, or somewhere else in the world, thank you for your continuous support to help protect our Foxborough Warrior name and logo. I'm a teacher by profession, and I would like to discuss the timeline of the Foxborough Warrior, along with some local history tonight. Beginning in 1778, the town of Foxborough was incorporated. Before that, indigenous families lived on this land. 1875, the first class graduated from Foxborough High School. 1955 was the first time the Foxborough High School football team was called the Foxborough Warriors. It was in the Foxborough Reporter on November 24th, 1955, which happened to be Thanksgiving Day that year. Even back then, our weekly newspaper came out on Thursdays. There were 18 young men wearing blue and gold uniforms that day on the field at the playground under head coach Alvin Stewart and assistant coach William toner. There was no logo yet. However, if you did pick up the Reporter that day, you would see two team photos on the front: Foxborough Warriors, Mansfield Hornets. If you opened up to the sports page, you'd see the Going Along with IGO column, and you'd see both teams listed: Foxborough High School, nickname Warriors; Mansfield High School, Green Hornets. Is anyone curious what happened in that game? Unfortunately, Foxborough did lose that game. A long time ago, the Foxborough High School yearbook used to be called the Red Fox, and the first time the Foxborough Warriors were mentioned in an FHS yearbook was with the graduating class in 1957 in connection with the football team. 1965, the blue and gold school colors became the colors for every class. Prior to 65, each freshman, sophomore, junior, and senior class adopted two class colors in addition to the blue and gold school colors. Somewhere along the line, the Warrior name was joined by a Warrior logo. This logo has had a variety of versions over the past several decades. You can see some of them up here and on my shirt. That completes my history lesson for the night. Next, I would like to share a recent conversation I had.
I'm sorry, your time's up.
Okay. Thank you.
Number 29. Number 30. Is number 30 here? $31.
Sorry. Please bear with me for 1 second. My name is Russ Reardon. I live on 10 Vernal Ave in Foxborough. I'm a longtime Foxborough resident and a Warrior. I watched the FCA video that the Foxborough woman arranged. The speaker, Mr. Gray, is a member of a lobbyist group called the Mascot Coalition. The same lobbyist group our school committee decided not to partner with, and once they realized what the group was. We thank you for that. Why does this man's opinion matter more than that of our own Native American resident, Chris Farmer, who courageously spoke at our school committee meeting regarding the subject? She lives here, raised her family here, and adamantly disagrees with changing the name or logo. She actually checked with Native American friends, family, and tribal members who agree with her. This video is being shared over and over because it supports a certain small group in town who have an agenda, yet the opinion of the actual person who lives here is disregarded. Why? And what about the letter submitted by David Smith, also a Native American from Foxborough, supports the logo? Or the letter signed by several Native Americans from Foxborough, all supporting not change until the state passes their legislation? I would hope you would see the video for the agenda-driven propaganda it is. Mr. Gray has no vested interest in Foxborough. We're just a means to an end for him. He gives these canned responses all across the region to further his agenda. Although not asked in the FCA video, it does not appear Mr. Gray ever lived in town, visited Foxborough prior to being asked to come here to film this PSA. What do we know? What we do know is that every Native American agrees with him. There is at least one who disagrees with him. In this day and age, with the internet, it is so easy to find someone who will support any position you choose. You have the letter from Cheryl Andrews Maltese, who was chairman of the Wampanoag tribe of Gay Head, which is one of the first contact tribes, and has the opposite opinions to those of Mr. Gray. She states in the letter you all have, the Wampanoag tribal nation met and helped the original Pilgrims survive. They support tribes working with the Mass legislature to develop appropriately written legislation that will formally prohibit the disrespectful representation of American Indians and to provide education and awareness of American Indians, not just as being integrated relegated to the distant past, but to celebrate that they are part of the contemporary culture with sustained tradition, who have made tremendous contributions to the foundation of this country and who have and continue to make positive contributions to the mosaic of humanity. It's a little more, but
Number 32. 32. 33.
Hi, Nancy Morrison, South Grove Street. First of all, I just don't know why we're here. We have a lot of other hot topics in this town to talk about. We have no town manager, we have no HR director, but on a practical level, the practical aspect, is this change in the logo cost effective? Especially these days when people are out of work, going to the grocery store, things are too costly. Is this practical to change? Will it mean we have to change all the logos? What's that going to cost? Including the banner out here, to get a brand new banner, what's that cost? Also, as taxpayers, rather than 5 people deciding the history of the town, shouldn't the taxpayers take a vote, say, maybe with a special town meeting, that we can all vote? I mean, for example, the DPW is holding a special town meeting for a new boiler. Why can't we have a town meeting for this? That's about it. Thank you.
Number 34. 34.
Patrick McGuire, 36 Burroughs Road. When this issue surfaced at the beginning of the year, my belief was that although I find the image to be respectful and dignified, it may be offensive to some. I'm not a member of that group. I may not understand its harm, so I wanted to educate myself on it. My research has completely turned my opinion. First, this is not a mascot. That term is used intentionally because it invokes images of furry, cartoonish characters, and it's insulting. This image is not a caricature, as it is not exaggerated or intentionally distorted to create a comic or grotesque effect. It is a portrait of a real person gifted by his tribe for use by a sports team. That tribe that gave that gift, the leader of that tribe was the former president of the NCAI. The image has become an iconic symbol honoring the Native American warriors known for their bravery, skill, and fighting spirit as a positive reflection of their heritage. It's not representing the entire race, it's representing the soldiers. Secondly, this is the result of external pressure. A recent Freedom of Information Act request showed only 3 requests in the prior 7 years to the school committee, with 2 of them coming from the same lobbyist. This has been seen in similar communities throughout the country. These activists rely on a base to push their flawed research and bully dissenting opinions by implying if you are opposed, you are a racist or a bigot. The Cal University of Michigan Freiburg study, which is often cited by these people, manipulates components to arrive at predetermined conclusions frequently. However, that study fails any standards of polling science for multiple reasons, including questionable sampling, weighting, and the leading questions. Conversely, there have been numerous independent studies by respected firms following proper polling science to reduce bias, including the Washington Post of all places. In the last 20 years, that all conclude that 80 to 90% of Native Americans are not bothered by this imagery being used by sports teams. The difference between those polls and the Freiburg poll is that they use proper polling science. When the members say they have reviewed the studies, have you reviewed these studies, Mr. Pearson? This matter has torn apart our wonderful community for most of this year. There are perfectly valid sources of information on both sides of the issue, which is why the state itself has not been able to reach a comprehensive resolution. It's failed 4 times. None of you mentioned this matter during your campaigns. Just because you can make this decision doesn't mean you should. I fully support DEI. This is not related to DEI, as I've heard you claim, Mr. Canfield. Instead of making a unilateral decision for the community to push this tribe to the town meeting for a proper vote, follow the lead of the Spirit Lake tribe in North Dakota, where they proved that when they went to vote, 2-1, the tribe members voted against their leader.
Thank you.
Go Warriors!
Number 35?
Yes. Michelle Raymond, 30 Birch Tree Road. I'm not a townie. I've been here for less than 10 years, but I feel very much like this is a town where I've been raising my children. I've been on the school committee, and I didn't come here with a printed out agenda or anything written. I really wanted to hear what people had to say and also talk about from my heart what I think that what we should be doing for this town. This is not just a simple issue. This is not just 2 sides, for and against. This very much has to do with the fact that diversity also means diversity of opinion. And even within the Native American tribes, there is diversity of opinion. We can't come up here and say that Native Americans as a whole feel one way about this logo, about what we're doing. Because in saying that, we are diminishing the fact that they have diversity of opinion. One of the other speakers had mentioned earlier that, there has just been a lawsuit against the former Redskins and the NFL overall from another Native American group who is now saying they want Redskins logos reinstated, that they feel that removing it is wiping away their imagery. And I think that that's something that we need to take into consideration as well, is there's history here. We're all talking about this topic because it's on a logo. If it wasn't there, if we wipe out all mention in regards to Native Americans, then there's less likelihood for us to be talking about it. I've always felt that once this issue became an issue that we were actually talking about in the forefront, that we're doing this backwards. People should be coming forward. If they want to change the logo, what are we changing it to? Come forward with something that actually you can be saying, is it this or this? What do we as a town want as that logo? Rather than taking something away with nothing to put in its place. That's really what I think that people should be concentrating on. If you want to change it, what are you changing it to? And if you're going to vote to take it away, all you're doing right now is taking something away from the town and not teaching our students what do you do when there's an issue where people don't agree. Do you just take something away or do you put something in its place? So that's just my thought on this.
Number 36? $37. 38?
Good evening. My name is Judith McDonough. I live at 22 Hayden Drive. I've been a resident of Foxboro, Massachusetts now for 22 years. My daughter attended the Ahern School and was bullied here and did not go to the high school. I'd like to commend Caden and his colleague for a wonderful job in being brave and coming out and standing up for what they believe in. I want to start with corporations have removed symbols or logos that objectify people, groups and minorities which perpetuate negative stereotypes. For instance, Aunt Jemima's photo was removed. It is now the Pearl Milling Company. Uncle Ben's rice, his photo was removed. There is no photo, just the name. The Native American woman was removed from the Land O'Lakes butter. Under Governor Charlie Baker, with the House and the Senate, they signed into law to change the state seal and the motto in the legislation session of 2021. They have a task force looking to create the brand new state seal. Suzanne Shone Haron, the Cheyenne citizen of the Cheyenne-Aparo tribes, recipient of the Presidential Medal of Freedom and the United States' highest civilian award she has received, is also an activist. The court case, Harjo et al. Versus Pro Football Inc., 1992 to 2009. She was an organizer who sued to get our exact mascot to be removed, and also the expert witness of the identical lawsuit brought by Native Young People Black Horse et al. Versus Pro Football Inc., filed in 06, active 2017 to 2020. On 10/20/20, the Washington NFL team is now known as the Washington Commanders. A quote from her, "And this belongs to all Native families, including mine, and that of the Amanda Blackhorse, my sister, target number one who bore the brunt of and carries the scars and the epitaphs, the beatings, the deaths, and the threats, other emotional, physical brutalities resulting from all Native sports and names and images." So I ask you that please consider removing this mascot, because if it's good for corporate America, it's good for the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Foxborough should consider it. Thank you.
$39.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Teresa Payne. I live at 6 Joseph Road. To say we have lost our way is clearly an understatement. I'm going to be very brief about a comment that happened with our former school committee many, many years ago. And again, very brief, not to bore everybody. Many years ago, myself and parents of our high school students faced a change in curriculum. 98% of parents and students wanted no change. It was changed nonetheless. It was changed. I'm sure you're wondering, why am I bringing this up now? I see a parallel to what is happening with the Warrior logo today. The school committee heard us then, but did not listen. They told us it didn't feel right, okay? We as a community are so weary of personal opinions and agendas. Our logo has been smeared as racist, offensive. It is none of that. It is most troublesome to hear a few young people describe it as such. It is of pure pride and dignity. Yes, the school committee is elected by the voters, but it is not your duty to impose your will. One last thought, a happy thought. As a child, I used to walk and play in the woods behind our home near the Rumford River. My mother and father used to tell me stories about Native Americans walking these same paths. I was intrigued by that. I thought how wonderful those stories were and how wonderful it was to have a piece of history right here in my hometown. Thank you.
$40.
AJ Dooley, 75 Ridge Road. I am a lifelong resident, parent, coach, and a proud Warrior. As you all know, I am in support of no change of the Warrior name and logo. I have been lucky enough to grow up here in town where every time there is a tragedy, this amazing town rallies around those people who are down or in need. I truly believe that this is what makes this town such a supportive and amazing place, is the fact that we have grown up to become warriors. The definition of a warrior is a brave, experienced fighter or soldier. Just as our players fight hard on and off the fields, our citizens fight hard in the game of life. We protect our own, and we always will. As I have said in the past meetings, this whole situation, which started long before the school committee brought it up, has been poorly handled from the beginning and is an insult to all of us. Rash decisions have consequences and fallout. Just look at the Redskins now, are in the middle of a lawsuit filed by the Native Americans group who want them to reclaim the Redskins identity and logo, and their petition got 150,000 signatures. I can see the same thing happening here. When there is no policy or no consistency, chaos ensues, which is what we now have. We have a far greater matters that this committee should be addressing. Schools like the Borough School, which I attended, have decided to call themselves the Bulldogs, which, while cute, we all know is Canton's name. Taylor School are now the Tigers, which is Taunton. All of these discussions were never voted on by the school committee and with no authorization. Without any policy, authority, or vote, our logo has been systematically removed by the school administration. I am sure they had their reasons and felt justified, but there was no discussion publicly with the school committee, coaches, students, or citizens. It was simply done. That was 100% wrong. On October 21st, FHS is inducting 6 Warriors in one team into the Foxboro Athletic Hall of Fame. Joni Goodwin, Jack Martinelli, Tommy Nalen, Sarah Bain, Bobby Morshed, and the late great Joe Heinricher, along with the 87 girls soccer team loaded with Warriors, will be the first Warriors inducted into the Hall of Fame. These 6 are the definition of the word warrior, and yet all the advertising and the invitations to this event all have the letter F on them. Who is making these decisions? We are the Warriors. As our alumni association states, once a warrior, always a warrior. So please spare us your F that clearly stands for phony. And have those Warriors inducted as Warriors as they are. And yes, I do know that the word phony begins with PH, but that's how crazy this is.
I'm sorry, your time is up.
Perfect timing.
$41? There's 41 here. 42?
Hi, everyone. I'm Rafaela Ziza Feinstein. I live at 3 Standish Ave here in Foxboro. I've been here about 22 years. I have 2 adult children, a few grandchildren, and they did not go to school here. But I actually did some research, and I'm pretty glad I did. But anyway, I'd like to begin by saying, number one, I really appreciated the speech of number 34 and 35. Mascots are eagles, hawks, cardinals, and Wally the Green Monster. They're often silly, cartoonish, and in the past, often, they can be degrading. But the Foxboro Warrior symbol is not a mascot. And over the last few weeks, I've been looking at the Foxboro Reporter, and everybody keeps using the word mascot. It's pretty inappropriate. It's an iconic American symbol of a great people that exemplifies bravery, determination, and the fighting spirit. I join the many Foxboro residents that are honored to have such an iconic Native American image as our town logo. But I did ask myself, what do Native Americans across this great land think? I'm old enough to remember when the Patriots were not a very good team, and even though I watched them, I had 2 teams I really liked a lot better. Believe it or not, they were the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Washington Redskins. And yes, I do have a Redskin shirt that every once in a while I wear very proudly around town. But anyway, I hit the internet and I wanted to learn. Number one, what do Native Americans really think? What do non-Native Americans think? And how did we get here? What brought us to this point? Well, I'm going to go back in history a little bit and talk about something that most people didn't really talk about. But in 1944, I learned that the National Congress of American Indians was established in response to the termination and assimilation policies of the United States government, because they forced lots of these policies on tribal governments in contradiction to their treaty rights and a status as sovereign nations. The NCAI group is supposed to be a watchdog. It was a watchdog that protected and ensured that the treaty enforcement between the American Indian tribal nations and the U.S. government. Well, in 2015, I mean, I spent hours. You can spend hours on the internet looking up all this stuff with all these teams and everything that's been dismantled. But in 2015, some members of the National Congress of the American Indians fell prey to groups such as politicians, academia, the media, and a variety of grievance groups, and began a campaign, and they use this word, to support the de-Indianization of America.
I'm sorry, your time is up.
Oh my gosh. Well, I am going to leave you with, oh my gosh, I am going to leave you with two very important websites.
No, I'm sorry, your time is up.
NAGA, N-A-G-A, education.com. There are two sides to this issue. Thank you very much. See me after if you want.
Number 43 is 43. 44? It's number 44 here. All right, we're halfway through. Number 45? 45? Remember, 3 minutes.
3 minutes. I'm married and I have 2 daughters. I only get 3 minutes at home, too. Stephen Uden, 21 Carmine Avenue. I've been a volunteer here in this town with love in my heart always. Maybe not perfect performance, but I empathize and know what it's like to sit on that school committee, as well as the one at Southeastern Vocational Technical High School. Go Hawks. I hope we keep the logo. I hope we keep what I like to call the emblem, which is much more respectful. Something's going to change at some point, but I think this school committee has gone terribly wrong in the way they're rolling this out. Let the state do its thing, and then we will follow if and as the state laws require us, or federal, or universal, whatever. What really troubles me now, and has since this came about, was the, I don't know, PTSD of 2012 with the casino issue, when we were divided. It broke my heart. And we're divided now again. We might be divided at the school committee. The school administration may be divided. The faculty may be divided. God bless the students that are divided. Neighbors and friends, some of whom I see here, and I won't make eye contact, but give me free food when they invite me over to cookouts, which I hope never ends. I ask the board to have the courage and good sense at this time, on this matter, at your next official meeting on this, to vote no action until we hear more from the state, because semantics can get thrown around this room all night. But laws are laws, we have to follow them, and the board has a way to put a balm on the pain that this has caused in our town, which is completely unnecessary at this time. It's a solution in search of a problem. Vote no action next meeting, please. God bless Foxboro. Thanks, Frank.
Thanks, Steve. Number 46?
Yeah. My name is Heather Harding, and I support no change to our warrior name or logo and letting the citizens vote on this matter at the next town meeting. Sorry? Better? Okay, my name is still Heather Harding. I still support no change to the Warrior name and logo and letting the citizens decide at town meeting. At the selectmen's meeting on September 12th, they were discussing a policy, and one of the selectmen pointed out that sometimes we're siloed and the school and the town side don't always connect. And she asked if the policy that they were discussing could be proposed to the school as well, so we're consistent town-wide. So it got me thinking. The town adopted a policy whereby board and committee decisions on things like naming go to town meeting vote so the citizens get a say. As some of you know, I'm the chairman of the Recreation Committee. In the past, our committee would just vote on things like names, slogans, etc. But since that policy went into effect on the town side, it goes to a town meeting vote. We've now done this a couple times, and it's worked really well. If the citizens like what we suggest, they approve it. If not, they don't, which makes perfect sense since our goal and mission is to represent what the citizens want. So I thought it would be great to have that same policy apply to all committees across the town, including the school committee. So we have a warrant article ready to go for the next town meeting that simply requires a town meeting vote on the school side, just like it does on the town side. Make things consistent across the whole town. I literally just copied the wording from the selectmen's policy. So the warrant article, if the citizens vote to pass it, would still give the school committee all their same duties and powers. Nothing changes there. It would just add a town meeting vote by the citizens is needed for final approval. It would amend our current bylaw and make the process and policy consistent town-wide. And given that our school committee has decided to limit input tonight to Foxborough residents, it seems that you too care about what the people of this town think. So why not let us vote on it at town meeting like we do the other town matters? Given how long we've been here tonight and how much longer it looks like we're going to be here, this could be a solution that everybody could live with. And just as a side note, I have to say, I am really sick of being called a racist and problematic just because we don't agree with the other side. Thank you.
'47.
Tricia Slattery, 63 Morse, lifelong resident. I'll be reading a letter tonight because I agree with it and I think it's important. Greetings from Naga. My name is Eunice Davison, and I'm a full-blood Dakota Sioux from the Spirit Lake Sioux Reservation in North Dakota. My Indian name is Good Star Woman. The issue before you is not just about a name and an image, but about a race of people that are being eradicated day by day. Your community members are being asked or demanded to join the genocidal movement, even though it goes against all you believe in. Where I and many of our Naga board members come from, actual reservations, with many of us still living in the reservations, living Indians 7 days a week, we know the truth you're being fed is false and distorted. But all our board members have Indian blood running through our veins. Relying on a 2002 dissertation paper to achieve a passing grade, falsely calling it a study, the so-called Freiburg study is nothing more than a propaganda exploit produced by the education system. It has been debunked many times. Every independent poll for over 20 years has come to the same conclusion. 80 to 90% of American Indians do not want these names and images to be removed. This begs the question, why has the education system dropped all previous references in the history of the American Indian from its curriculum? Having traveled to communities from Maine to Cedar City, Utah, and many areas in between, we've witnessed 1 or 2 school board members bully honorable members into submission and telling the community to sit down, shut up, and take it. We've witnessed school boards throughout the nation selectively allowing outside Indians to enter community to challenge and degrade their school name and image at the same time, denying other American Indians and voice. Your school does not belong to your educational board on the Department of Education, but to the community members who pay taxes. It does not belong to some nearby, far away tribal government who speaks over the members instead of for or with them. The birth of Naga comes from the realization that our education system is not the friend to the American Indian and could care less what the American Indian feels or says. This was proven in North Dakota between 2007 and 2012. Indians fought the education system through votes, courts, state and federal, and legislation, only to be shot down by the education system that in the end actually threatened Indians with reprisals if we couldn't fight for the truth. For proof of this, we ask you read Aren't We Sioux Enough?, which has laid out the entire facts that we have never been challenged. The book brought together Indians and non-Indians alike from all over the country as they face the same tactics being used against them. Just as in the past, some have called the extermination of the American Indian. Good people have stopped them. It is your turn to stand up to the extremists and outside agitators. The mission and motto of NAGA, educate, not eradicate, and even Freiburg had to modify her original 2002 dissertation in 2008 to include, more education is better than complete removal. We ask you to stand tall and fight against true racism, stand with the American Indians, and educate, not eradicate.
Number 48. Number 49.
My name is Dennis Gove. I live at 40 Beach Street, and I'd like to speak directly to those of you who are opposing this change. Your opposition showcases a continued refusal to consider the possibility that the American experience is vastly different for people who don't look like you, because you're too afraid to contemplate what it means that systematic racism against various groups has been a recurring theme across wide swaths of this country for significant portions of its history. You stand here and in other forums saying things like, I think it's fine, what's the big deal, no one's ever complained before, while completely ignoring the American history is chock full of horrific acts perpetrated by our forebears against those who don't look like them merely because they didn't look like them. And those who did stand up to complain were strung up. Their communities marched to reservations where they could be systematically and repeatedly persecuted, silenced, and ignored. Their children forcibly stolen and adopted away so as to civilize them in an attempt to wipe out generations. Perhaps using their history and culture as fun little icons for our schools, where that history is whitewashed away as manifest destiny, is a bit too much on the nose of mockery. Many leaders and members of these communities have spoken up at the national, state, and local levels to express the generally held feelings within their communities in favor of making these changes. Yet you repeatedly reject their voices as irrelevant while disingenuously asserting your respect. We owe these communities much more than removing these derogatory symbols will ever achieve, but even as small as it is, we must stand with them. Those of you refusing to do so have blinded yourselves to the reality of the world. I stand with my neighbors in support of this change, and I ask that you consider doing so as well.
Number 50.
Yes. Good evening. My name is Erin Foley, 32 Edwards Road, and I'm a proud Foxboro Lady Warrior, and I'm here on behalf of the Foxboro Lady Warrior team. And we are members of the Girls State Championship basketball team. This committee was provided with overwhelming evidence of what the majority of the community, including the students, want. You have heard from Native American Foxboro residents whose opinion should carry the most weight, and they want to keep our logo. A couple thousand Foxboro residents signed the in-person petition to keep the logo in a month's time. Over 200 students signed in just a half a day. I cannot imagine what the number would be if we had given this more time. 700 lawn signs were purchased. We have banners in the gym and are very proud to be the state champions. We also have rings which bear our logo, and it is just that, a logo. It's not a mascot. We do not dress up at pep rallies and football games. Our Warrior logo is on our clothing, the center of our gym floor, our banners, stores around town, the community field, and many businesses also use it. It is a way of life, not just a school mascot. It is meant as a tribute to those who came before us and a message to those who will come after us. Play hard, work hard, support one another, and be a warrior in every sense of the word. Why would you want to erase our history and take all of that away from us? Please do not vote to take our logo away.
'51.
Shannon Seuss, 235 Central Street.
I am a third-generation Foxboro resident, proud townie, and an even prouder warrior. I do not support any change to our logo because I feel the logo is respectful and embraced by many in our community, including the Native Americans who live here, which some is my family, and who have already reached out to you to say that they agree. I support their wish to keep the logo as is. Every study you read, and there are many, clearly states that some people are offended and some are not, that some members of tribes want to keep the logos and mascots and some do not. What they all seem to have in common is that they all agree the negative derogatory representations should be changed. No one has deemed ours negative or derogatory because it's not a caricature. It's an actual portrait that was commissioned with the input of Native Americans to represent Native Americans in general and not a specific tribe. Ours is not a mascot, it is a logo, and it does not just apply to the schools. We do not dress up as Native Americans at our pep rallies or parade down the streets of Foxboro. It's a logo and a way to honor our heritage. It has been embraced by other town departments, sports groups, businesses, and events outside of the schools. To take that away against the wishes of the majority would be a shame and wrong. I'm the first person to speak up when it comes to someone being mistreated, shamed, or judged based on their identity. I am an ally to all and pride myself in that. In my 29 years of life and as a resident of Foxboro, the Warrior logo has never been brought up to me as being anything negative or derogatory, because if it had, I would never be wearing it on my clothes, putting a sign on my lawn, or calling myself a warrior. Simply put, the Warrior logo is full of pride, and in Foxboro, pride is a tradition. Please wait for the state and local tribes to provide clear guidance. Thank you.
Number 52.
Good evening. My name's Scott Cicerone. I live at 5 Michelle's Way. I have 3 kids in the school system and another one on the way. And as we sit here tonight, it's not a matter of the logo or the mascot or not. Where we stand here today is a matter of the townspeople and the citizens. So I just want to read you all the definition of an elected official. An official must exercise their judgment and their skills, but their duty is to place these at the service of a higher authority. In this instance, it's the citizens of this town, it's the community, and more importantly, it's the students of the schools. You have had so many kids come out here with well thought out, articulated arguments on both sides, and they should be your focus. You've heard it from many people earlier tonight. You are wasting the time and the resources, and the focus should be in other areas, both for the school committee as well as the administration. This goes on to say that ultimately you are responsible only for the impartial execution of assigned tasks and must sacrifice your personal judgments if this runs counter to your official duties. So the fact that you want to take the voice away from the townspeople is not the right thing to do. And as you sit and we look at all 5 schools, 3 elementary schools, the middle and the high school, they all have an American flag that sits in the corner. And every morning, what do all of your students do? They stand up and they do the Pledge of Allegiance. Is that still done in the schools today? Right. And so as we teach United States history, we teach communism, we teach socialism, and we teach democracy. So what message are you sending to the students of this school and all of these schools if you're going to take democracy away and try to take the townspeople's vote away? Send it to the vote, take everything that Heather Harding articulated and proposed, and let that speak for itself. It is not your duty or your right to impose your personal feelings. And guess what? You will all have a vote if it goes to a town vote, because as Foxboro residents, you also may be able to vote on your behalf. Thank you.
Number 53. '54. 55. 56.
Hi there, Jamie Kelly, 9 Coney Drive, born and raised in Foxboro, been here for 46 years and have bled blue and gold ever since.
We live in a world where it's impossible to please everyone, a world where people are always offended or upset by something. The world would be a much happier and peaceful place, right? Wouldn't it, if all genders, races, nationalities felt recognized, respected, and heard of at all times? Unfortunately, that is just unrealistic. Here we are, still talking about a logo that has been the way of life in this town for countless years. A logo that has brought teams together game in and game out, match in and match out, a symbol of strength, power, and courage, one that we've been proud to wear and call ourselves being from this exceptional town. Not a symbol any athlete that has come through would say they've been embarrassed by or felt bad about because they never have thought 1 minute they were offending a group of people. I played many sports in this town and have coached many teams, and I'm proud to say that I have been fortunate to do both as a warrior. A warrior is what you think of when you say Foxboro Athletics. Now we have people who want to get rid of it, that have never put an athlete through the system or have never been an athlete themselves and aren't affected by it in the least, yet have gone ridiculously way over the top to talk about how negative it is, how it is affecting the mental health of Native American children, and that the change would be uncomfortable, and that's the only reason why we don't want to do it at all. I don't find that to be the right choice of words at all. It's more like unfortunate and wrongfully accusatory that this symbol has been used in an offensive way. Have athletes put war paint on and hit their mouths as if they're Indians as a way to poke fun and I don't know about it? So my question is why? Why do you find the need to put your 2 cents in and fight so hard to get rid of something that you have nothing to do with at all? Protecting a group of people as if that all of a sudden they need it because they are being disrespected by a bunch of racist people. By all means, have your opinion. You're entitled to it. We all are. But the difference between you, me, and hundreds of others in this town who support the warrior is you're looking to end an era, a part of history that is a true staple and tradition that makes us this town. If we all could stand on a soapbox and make effective noise when we were offended, then I would be the first one to do so. If I think about all the times I felt disrespected because of my gender or sexuality. That's not how life works, as much as some people want to think so. Let's not forget about the Native American woman who spoke so bravely about at another meeting, who basically pleaded to keep the warrior as if it was the only piece of her heritage left. How easily we just push her to the wayside and don't respect her wishes. You who want to get rid of it have lost complete sight of what has meant all these years. So I'll say it again: strength, courage, power. We have won it loud and proud for years, a way of life, and now it's get rid of it because other towns are finding the need to get rid of their logo. So we need to be followers and supposedly are offending all these people. Bogus reasons and negatively affect so many. All this time and energy spent on this one topic. Just think about all the special education students we could be helping and all those kids suffering tremendously with their social emotional state. My son Joey included. If we actually put this time and energy into them, it's 2 very difficult topics that don't get half the attention they need because of the energy we are putting into a topic that never was an issue before. It's actually quite a shame. I truly think some soul searching really needs to take place when it comes to ending a legacy. Nevertheless, my 4 children that I am raising in this town will always be warriors and stand by a logo that has only represented positivity through its strength, courage, and power.
Number 57. $58.
My name is Mackenzie Burton, 25 Lawton Lane. I am president of the National Honor Society at Foxboro High School and a proud member of the Warrior Ladies basketball team. I am here in support of keeping our Warrior name and logo as is. I read the paper repeatedly referenced, which was written by Miss Ernst. While it was nicely written, I feel it is important to point out that it is not a scientific study set out to prove or disprove a theory based on evidence collected and analyzed. It is a proposal paper written in support of one student's opinion that Foxboro should remove the image of a Native American man with a headdress and feathers and the name Warriors. This paper quotes only sources that support the elimination of all Native American mascots. It does not provide quotes or sources on the other side of the debate. It states that ours is very similar to the Washington Redskins logo and states that that logo was created by George Marshall, but it fails to state that it was created with the help of a local tribe member, Blackie Wetzel of the Blackfoot tribe, and was meant to represent the Native American in general. It also failed to point out that our logo is equally similar to the buffalo head nickel. It does support that then Superintendent Deb Spinelli and now Superintendent Amy Burdo state that they have had no community members come forward about the logo. It has not been deemed derogatory, and that they will pay close attention to state legislation. So, what has changed? Why is the school committee now intent on making a change before the state legislation is finalized? The paper also states the majority of the student body at Foxboro High School do not find the logo offensive and would not be open to changing it. Why discount those opinions now? She cites Miss Michaela Forrester of the Mashpee Wampanoag tribe as finding our logo offensive. And when Miss Forrester asked what our town does to recognize Native Americans, the paper proclaims that in Foxboro, we do nothing currently to honor local natives. This is simply not true. We have a large display at Memorial Hall. Multiple streets and bodies of water have Native American names. We have boundary markers on Native American sites, and multiple articles have been published. Perhaps if that information had been provided to Ms. Forrester, she would have expressed a different opinion. To put it simply, a proposal paper representing only one side should not be considered scientific evidence or considered at all in this instance. I would request that you honor the wishes of the majority and make no change to the logo. It is who we are, and to take it away would hurt many of us. I strongly support keeping the Warrior logo and name, as it is a way to continue to honor Native American history. As a student athlete of Foxboro High School, and having spent my entire childhood proud to wear the Foxboro Warrior, I would be deeply saddened to see it removed.
59.
All right. I'm John Balgan of 151 North Street. I kept it relatively short because I'm only going to say what's important and clear. I just want everyone to know that changing the Warrior logo would be the biggest mistake our committee has done in a while. The logo is not offensive in the slightest. It is something you wear with a badge of honor. The Warrior logo head symbolizes dedication, physical, and mental strength. The Warrior logo is what everyone in Foxboro strives to represent to be the best that they possibly can be. It was never meant to be racist or offensive, but rather a high standard of great class and excellence. The Warrior logo is familiar to those who have or had the great privilege to grow up in Foxboro. It's not the shape of the logo that we concentrate on, but rather how we recognize the logo that has been familiar with us all since a young age. I have just one question. If we take away the Warrior logo, what would we have left of Native American history? How are we going to remember the tragedy that the Native American people have endured? The Foxboro Warrior logo reminds me of the Native American people every day. Without it, it would be hard to think once about the Native American legacy. Changing our logo would be changing our culture. Do not change our culture.
Number 60.
My name is Chris Campbell, and I support no change to our Warrior name and logo. Foxboro may not have been an Indian reservation, but we still are steeped in Native American history. Many of our streets, bodies of water, and recreational areas take their names from the Native American culture. Cocasset Street, Cocasset Lake, and Cocasset River, recreational areas. Cocasset meaning place of towering pines. Neponset Street, Neponset Heights, and Neponset Ave, and Neponset Reservoir meaning spreading water. Lake Miramichi and Miramichi Road meaning laughing water. The first settlers' road in boundaries markered on South Street is a tribute to the old Indian trail running from Dedham to Bristol. We had two settlements and well-traveled trails, and our Memorial Hall has a wonderful Native American exhibit. The census says 0 Native Americans, but that is a state census, not a local census, and it says 0 Native Americans because out of 17,000 residents, we would need 1% of the people who respond to the census claim they are Native American in order to have registered. That is sad and wrong, but we do have Native Americans in Foxboro, and they have spoken. Listen to them. We purchased the land, and we now call Foxboro from the Native Americans. We did not take it. We were not involved in bloody battles. This has been confirmed repeatedly by our great town. historian Jack Otlet. We urge you to listen to us, the Foxborough residents, and not the outsiders.
'61. '62. '63.
Good evening. Good evening. My name is Mike Kaminsky, and I live at 18 Winter Street. I moved here to Foxborough 29 years ago and have 3 sons that were educated in this great school system, and all of them graduated from Foxborough High. My middle son, Jim, played on the field of the Warriors and was coached by many of the great people in this room tonight. Tonight, I am here to speak in favor of keeping the Foxborough Warrior symbol and asking the school board to take no action when they meet officially in a week or two. The Warrior symbol is not meant to disrespect or be offensive towards the Native American community. Foxborough High is not like some professional teams that encourage their fans to use this disrespectful chants or arm gestures at their games. In Foxborough, the Warrior symbol is a powerful way to honor and recognize the rich heritage of the Native American warrior who lived in these parts of New England. As you can tell by my scratchy voice, I am not a professional speaker, writer, author, or even renowned town historian. But many of us knew someone who was, and he has been quoted here tonight, and that is Jack Otlet. And what I would like to read to you is part of a letter to the editor that Jack wrote on March 23rd, 2023, not 30 years ago. In that letter, it's titled, "Our Warrior Pride and Heritage Should Be Retained." And in there is 2 paragraphs that said, "A leader in the movement to remove offensive names and images in America is Paula Peters, who held membership in the Mashpee Wampanoag Tribal Council, headed many years before by her father. She set her sights on the worst offenders in America and has never let up. But when she was presented the history of Foxborough and its recognition of those who agreed to pass this land to settlers for a negotiated amount of money, she said, 'You are not on my horizon.' She saw no problem in the recognition of the Native Americans and the respect that we showed." Unquote. I'd just like to finally say, we deserve to maintain the symbol. The symbol is a logo. It is not a mascot jumping up and down. It is a symbol of the values and traditions of the school and community. It fosters a sense of pride and unity and excellence among our students and athletes. Thank you for your time and attention. Go Warriors!
'64.
My name is Jackson Carmen, and I support no change to our Warrior name and logo. The SC followed the state's guidance on COVID, masks, and on curriculum. The state is currently coming up with new guideline for sex ed, which I can only assume this board will also follow. Why should this issue be any different? Wait for state guidance, especially given that you have no policy on it at this time, and there seem to be much more pressing issues. Look around this room. It is not just filled with students and parents from FHS. It is filled with citizens of all ages and walks of life, several of whom are Native American tribal members, and that is because we all feel passionately about the Warrior logo. This is not a school issue and should not be decided by 5 members of the school committee. There is no policy in place which says you have to vote on the use of a logo. You are choosing to do this. You are not required to. Please end this now and table this matter until the state providing guidance. I have seen letters, Facebook posts, lawn signs, and petitions. What I have not seen is an outcry from Foxborough Native Americans or even a request for this to be discussed. It does not seem right that the school committee would bring up this issue. just because they can and they felt they had the time. I stand with the Native Americans who want no change. Who are we to erase their history and over time, them?
'65.
My name is Mike Marcusella, 12 Meadowview Road, and I support no change to our Warrior name and logo. You may be aware that National American Guardian Association already has over 100,000 signatures on a petition to have the Washington Redskins go back to their name and logo. It would appear this woke culture has gone too far and the tide is turning back. You keep talking about the people, the logo is hurting by losing it, and by using it, and how if one person is hurt, it has to go. What about those of us who will be hurt by you removing it? Do our feelings mean less to you? We have been warriors our whole lives, and now you want to take away our way of life from us. You want us to erase any trace of our history over wishes of our own Native Americans. We stand united with the Foxboro Native Americans who have reached out and asked you to keep the logo as is. Keep the logo.
Number 66.
My name is Brendan Watts of 2 Twilight Drive, and I support keeping the Warrior logo. I am part of a team both on and off the field, and I am part of a great community, one that pulls together whenever needed, and we have done that now. It is very clear what this community wants, and that is our Warrior logo. We all support and fight for each other like a warrior does, and our Warrior logo is a sign of respect and our history. Please do not take that away from us. It is who we are, and it is why we fight to keep it. To anyone who says it makes us look bad, that is simply something you say without any tangible proof. What I can tell you is that it has an impact on our competitors and anyone who takes us on. The logo shows we stand as one, whether that's one team, one community, or one amazing group of warriors. We may not all be Native Americans, but we can still support and honor them by keeping our Warrior logo. Please keep our Warrior logo. Thank you.
'67. '68.
My name is Evan Vieira, and I'm in support of no change to our Warrior name and logo. Many of us noticed that in the past your board referred to this as the Warrior mascot, and now you've changed the wording and are referring to it as the FPS mascot. Why the change? Is it because you were trying to minimize the effect your decision will have as you only have control over the schools? Problem is that it is not a school mascot, it is a logo which has been embraced by the entire community. This is evident by it being portrayed on the Sam Burns Community Field, the town recreation signs, Clean Up Foxborough Day shirts, many local businesses, and youth sports teams. This is a decision that should be put to a town vote, and attempting to change what you call it to fit your narrative does not change that. Our opponents all say the same thing: we can do better, we should do better, and they are right. We should have a Native American history class in our curriculum along with a Foxborough history class, and we should have cultural workshops. We should be educating everyone, not attempting to erase the past. Honor the wishes of the many Native Americans who do not want their history eradicated by non-Native Americans. The opponents all quote these studies to support their need to wipe out any trace of Native American mascots, whether respectful or not. The problem is twofold. First off, we do not have a mascot, we have a logo. Second, if you actually dig into these studies, most did not involve actual Native Americans. They take other impoverished groups who have been previously studied and apply the same principles and results without actually utilizing Native Americans in the study. So be careful relying on studies which are agenda-driven and not scientific without reading the footnotes. As Native American, I'm not supposed to read that. Thank you.
Number 69. And could you remember to give your address also?
My name is Riley Kirchhoff. I live at 1 Ledgeville Avenue. I have a letter here from some Native Americans in Foxborough. Dear school committee members, we are Native Americans from Foxboro. We are writing to you as members, representatives, and/or descendants from the following tribes: Wampanoag tribe in Aquinnah, Blackfoot, Sioux, Wampanoag, and Abenaki. I apologize for any mispronunciations of those tribes. Many Native Americans are not offended by the use of indigenous names, logos, and mascots. There are divisions among tribes, tribal leaders, and tribal members. We, the undersigned, consider the warrior logo respectful and an honor to the indigenous people who Foxboro purchased the land from. Time and time again, we see the people in our town coming to someone's aid in a time of crisis. That is being a warrior. Changing the logo would be paramount to erasing yet one more trace of our ancestors who lived and continue to live here. It should be embraced, used to start conversations and educate our youth. We know that you have said that you reached out to local tribes, but you did not reach out to any of us, so we felt it necessary to contact you. We are opposed to the changing of the warrior logo. We respectfully request, as local Native Americans from Foxboro, that you wait for the outcome of the state bill which local tribes are involved in, and then yield the matter to the town for the citizens to decide should they choose to take further action. The face of our warrior logo is full of strength. It honors the past, lives in the present, and looks towards the future. Respectfully submitted by Chris Farmer, Sarah Ballou, Scott Goodwin, Catherine Casmo Rogers, Jamie Ballou, Stephanie Demon Lindsay, Donna Krug Marshall, Lexi Carpenter, Raymond Smalley, Dave Smith, Darlene Goodick, Dana Ballou. I apologize if I pronounced any of your names wrong. Please keep our logo.
Number 70? 71?
Hi, my name is Owen McHugo. I live at 88 Ridge Road, and I support no change to our warrior name and logo. To date, our public record requests, which I had carefully tallied up, shows 4 Foxboro Native Americans emailed the SC directly to say save our logo, and 12 Foxboro Native Americans sent a letter requesting to keep the logo. Of the 221 submissions to the community inbox, 176 said keep the logo, 36 said change it, 2 said let the town decide, 3 people wrote what they no opinion, 4 others provided non-relevant questions. This shows that the majority of people who reached out want to change. These are the people who elected to carry out their wishes. As a warrior, ask for the logo to stay.
'72.
Hi, my name is John Cicchetti of 166 Oak Street, and I support keeping the Warrior logo. I think that maybe when you decided to bring up this topic, you did thinking that now is the time to discuss it, given all the craziness going on in the country, and that you did not expect this backlash. There is one thing I know about Foxboro and my teammates. We support each other in every aspect of life. And the Native Americans who spoke and wrote to you said they wanted to keep the logo and that they would be hurt by its removal and any attempt to make them disappear. So I'm here to say I stand with them and support them because that is what we do in Foxboro. And it may sound rude, and I don't mean it to sound that way, but if you don't like our warrior and our way of life, then perhaps Foxboro is not the place for you.
'73. '74.
My name's Caden Hassett. I live at 90 Spruce Street. I support no change to the warrior name or logo. At the last school committee meeting, Mr. Canfield stated, "We all know we are lucky to live in Foxboro. There were probably a dozen mentions in the last 35 minutes about the community and the way we all cooperate and collaborate to get the results that we want for the members of our community. And as a school committee, we do not ask the question enough, but what can we do as a school committee to enforce the collaboration or to make it more powerful?" End quote. The answer is simple. We would ask respectfully that you apply the same logic to the situation and allow citizens to decide at a town meeting once the state provided guidance. This school committee acted prematurely by attempting to tackle the issue without all the information and the guidance. Picking and choosing what info you want to listen to and making the decision without letting the public vote is not the way to go. For every Native American that you make happy by changing the logo, you make another Native American equally unhappy. Who are you, non-5 5 non-Native Americans to make the decision for them. If the 5 school committee members were Native Americans, then it might make more sense. It is not up to you to decide how Native Americans should feel and whether or not to erase their history or contributions. Thank you.
75. 76.
Good evening. My name is Sully Keneally. I live at 28 Pine Acres Road, and I'm here to ask you to make no change to our logo. In the meetings prior to this one tonight, 26 speakers urged you to keep the logo. 7 asked to change it. A couple thousand Foxboro residents signed the in-person petition to keep the logo in just a month's time. 700 lawn signs were purchased in support in 3 weeks' time, as I'm sure you have all seen around the town. One letter was sent from the Board of Alumni Association, who voted unanimously to keep the logo. 2 online polls were done. One had 96% saying no change, and one had 86% saying no change. 2 articles of support were written by the late town historian Jack Othlet. And the online poll to change the logo, which was open to anyone worldwide to sign electronically with just a click of the mouse, has not yet even reached 900 electronic signatures in 6 months. Based off these facts and what has been said here tonight, it is clear the town wants no change. So let the town vote. Thank you and have a good night.
'77.
My name is Nolan Gordon, 17 Hill Street, and I support no change to our Warrior name and logo. We do not feel that you are carrying out the wishes of the people who elected you. Those wishes were made clear by the thousands of petition signatures of the Foxboro residents and the 700 lawn signs and all the emails. All we are asking is that you wait for the state to provide guidance. Please do not attempt to erase history. Instead, let's embrace it. Go Warriors.
'78.
My name is Jack Taft, 479 South Street, and I'm a lifelong Warrior. I originally had a lot more facts, but I'm not going to keep repeating, and I was going to give my thoughts. I think it's a big mistake to change this Warrior logo because me and many others in this room are proud to wake up each day as a Warrior, and it is not fair to me, my teammates, and other athletes at FHS for the logo we wear with pride in our helmets, our chest, and the name we play for to be taken away from us. Thank you.
'79. 80.
Hi, I'm Sarah Blue. I'm 48 Spruce Street. I'm a member of the Wampanoag tribe of Aquina and a lifelong Foxboro resident. I went to Foxboro High School. I wore the Warrior name on my chest. I'm proud of it. I'm speaking on behalf of not just myself, but other family members, and we support no change to our Warrior name and logo. Honestly, I'm frustrated and exhausted that this issue has been pushed so heavily by our school committee. We just want to say that contrary to what is being pushed out there on social media in the Foxboro Cable Access piece, which recently aired and is being shared on Facebook, we do not agree with Ferris Gray. He does not speak for us. Not all Native Americans support eradicating their logos and mascots. Our logo should not be mistaken for mockery of our culture, but instead a strong and powerful symbol that reflects the values and spirit of the Native Americans. To take this away from us now is just wiping out yet another part of our existence and history in this community, which has been nothing but supportive. We would prefer that you take this opportunity to educate people on our history by adding it to the curriculum in our schools. Thank you.
'81.
Jamie Ballou, 19 Garfield Street. And I'm also a member of the Wampanoag tribe of Aquina. And I grew up in Foxboro. I graduated in Foxboro in 2014. There are some people in this town who believe they know or understand how all Native Americans feel about the Warrior name and logo. They tell us it's a racist stereotype and that it's time to do away with our mascots and imagery for good. And if you don't support their opinion, well, you are in fact the racist and offensive one. Well, I don't support the removal of our Warrior name and logo, not now or in the future. It should instead be used to educate children on the importance and impact Native Americans had on the making of this country. I've always been proud to see the warrior logo as a unifying symbol for Foxboro, something that we were all proud of, and turning it into a divisive social issue does just the opposite. It creates a conflict where there really was none. It's ridiculous to imply that simply having a Native American logo is disrespectful or racist, especially when it's seen as a symbol of pride for the town. I grew up being proud that my family's heritage was represented. It's a symbol that brings us all together. Trying to erase that history in favor of another bland mascot does nothing for inclusivity and instead encourages more division. What benefit will this bring to the lives of Native Americans? Is there a positive outcome you're hoping to achieve by removing us from our sports teams? Do you think the problems facing the Native community will somehow change now that they aren't used as mascots anymore? Native Americans deserve to be recognized and remembered as the first people of America. So many of them died defending their land, their rights, and their way of life. They shared their knowledge and wisdom with the early settlers that led to all of us being here today. The warrior name and logo is just one way we have of showing our gratitude to the people that inhabited this land for thousands of years. We should continue to teach, preserve, and protect their history, not erase them. Thank you.
'82. '83. '84. There we go.
Tony Selham, 12 Fun Acres Road. Hello, my name is Tony Selham, high school senior and football captain, and I, along with the other captains, support no change to our warrior name and logo. It has been made very clear what the majority of the town wants, so why would you vote against the wishes of the citizens and, more importantly, the students? Why do you want to take this away from us now, simply because Mr. Canfield asked for this to be put on the agenda to be dispensed with? We are here to tell you that we have been and want to continue to be represented by our logo. We all read the letter from Native American David Smith, and it made perfect sense to us, and we totally agree with it, so I wanted to share it. Dear school committee, I am a Native American Abenaki. I graduated Foxboro High School in 1989. I lived in Foxboro long enough to remember Beach Street being a dirt road and the Robinson Hill School roof caving in during the blizzard of '78, and we had to finish the year at the IGO building. Being a father now, I look back on my time in Foxboro and remember fondly that all the teachers and faculty members set my life up for success. The academics were outstanding, and my AP courses exceeded my college's level of expectations, allowing me the freedom to pursue courses that I may not have the opportunity to enroll in. I am fortunate to have found a school system in Maine, where I reside now, that resembles what I was anyone in Foxboro. Fortunate enough to have. I never experienced racism or bullying from anyone in Foxboro, ever. I never viewed the logo of a Native American warrior as offensive. The image of a lone, stoic Native American symbolizes what it's like to find within you the individual strength to rise to whatever you are faced with and meet that challenge. The symbolism of the strong message of hope and community through individual strength is what I have always seen the warrior logo to mean. Many people dismiss the logo as a mascot. That characterization devalues the symbolic significance of what a warrior is. To compare the Native American warrior logo to a Mickey Mouse cartoonish mascot is insulting. But I think that many people are just not educated in the background and are just not sensitive about the issue by no real fault of their own. It is easy to dismiss something as meaningless when it has no real meaning to you. While most may give little thought about the significance of what little things mean in school as they leave for bigger things in life, little things like this leave an inevitable, sometimes a subliminal, mark on people's lives forever. I played football, lacrosse, and joined the outdoor club, making some lifelong friends in the process. The activities available to me literally changed my life and planted the seeds for the inward growth of personal strength and confidence that I possess today. Even though my folks live in an area and I don't get to go down and visit as often as I would like to, my memories of living in Foxboro and being a part of the school community are always with me. Thank you for that. Needed that.
Thank you. '85.
Marco Chalfie, 35 Villa Drive. And I, like so many others, are here tonight to support No Change to Our Logo. A lot of people keep talking about the psychological and emotional harm that Native American mascots can cause, which I believe is true. However, this isn't the case here at Foxboro High. We have a logo that I am proud to represent on my jersey and on and off the field. To my knowledge, no one at Foxboro High or in the town of Foxboro has claimed that they were harmed by this logo or that they would be better off without the logo. In fact, many have said the opposite. Before a decision is made, I encourage those that are opposed to the logo to fully understand what the Foxboro logo means to the student body and community that fully embrace the meaning and history of our logo. I vote no, change our logo, and keep the warrior. Thank you.
'86. '87. You can push it up.
Oh.
There you go.
Good news. I'm the last person speaking, so we went faster than we thought. I am here before you today after a long...
I'm sorry, your name and address?
Oh, sorry. Nathan Erman, 3 Cheryl Drive. I'm here before you today after a long evening of discussion asking the school committee to make no change to our current Warrior logo. Being a Warrior means more than just the name or the logo. It represents the grit and passion and pride we have as a Warrior, whether you're playing a sport, in a club, or the music program. Being a Warrior is represented throughout our school. The Warrior logo does not promote negative stereotypes. Instead, it represents a noble figure who shows courage, pride, and resilience. We cannot just get rid of this. We in the town of Foxboro should not just follow the trends of other towns or schools. In our town bylaw, the powers and duties of the school committee state you shall have general jurisdiction of all public schools. You shall select and contract with teachers, appoint a superintendent of schools, principals, school physicians, school nurses, and such other agents and employees as may be authorized by law. You shall determine the school curriculum, vacation periods, summer school, adult education programs, salary schedules, and other major policy matters. Problem is there's no logo or mascot policy, so before you take a vote, shouldn't you at the very least establish a policy? Also, while major policy is not defined in our bylaw, it would not appear that a logo would be considered a major policy matter based on the past actions of the school committee. There's never been a vote on this matter by any school committee at any point in our town's history. The school committee did not vote to start using the Warrior logo 70 years ago, nor did it vote to allow the Borough School to become the Borough Bulldogs, Taylor School the Tigers, or for the high school team to use a fox. Many feel that those actions are dividing our town, so why have you not weighed in on these policy matters? Since you did not vote on any of these other matters, it would appear that this is not a major policy matter, and in fact there's no policy at all. This matter should be decided by the people at a town meeting. You probably watched the very great FCA interview like I did. I found it to be full of prepared responses that it seems like he uses in every interview he gives. To be honest, I found it over the top, offensive, and insulting. We just heard from 2 active, engaged Wampanoag tribe members born and raised in Foxboro. After that, what more do you need? To those people fighting to change our logo, thinking they know what it is best for these Native Americans who live in our great town, maybe now you will see and realize why our logo is so important to them and to us. We stand in support of them rather than against them. Could we as a community please take a step back and put this Warrior logo issue on hold and pull our efforts together to focus on the current issues in Foxboro, the migrant issue, homeless families, special education, lack of COVID, vaping, school safety. There are many more serious issues that could use our attention. That is why in May, I will be running for school committee, and if the logo gets taken away, one of the first things I will do, if elected, is motion to bring it back, as I stand in support of our Foxboro Native Americans and those who I hope will vote for me. As class president, student council president, and liaison to the school committee, I look forward to bringing my perspective to the table. Thank you for taking your time to think about everyone's perspectives.
Number 88. Number 88. Mr. Pearson, that's all the speakers. Thank you for all attending. Great job.